Moving on to our next subject, which is ING 153, or Teaching and Assessment of Literature Studies. Here's the question number 4, which is an oral exercise in literature reading. So take note of the word oral exercise. Is it letter A, choral reading? Letter B, sentence transformation? Letter C, reading comprehension? Or letter D, identifying errors? So let's define what are these choices. Letter A, choral reading. Choral reading is reading aloud in unison with a whole class or group of students. So it means choral reading helps build students' fluency, self-confidence, and motivation. Letter B, sentence transformation. Transformation of sentences means changing or converting the words or forms of a sentence without changing its meaning or sense. So that is sentence transformation. What is reading comprehension? Reading comprehension is the ability to read text, process it, and understand its meaning. So that is reading comprehension. And lastly, identifying errors. It is error identification. It is another type of competitive test where one needs to identify the grammatical errors in a sentence. So going back to our question number 4, which is an oral exercise in literature reading. So since you already know what is identifying errors, you are identifying errors or grammatical errors in a sentence. So that means letter D is not the correct answer. So let's eliminate letter D. Letter C, reading comprehension. So in reading comprehension, do you need to practice or exercise your oral? No. So let's eliminate letter C also. Letter B, sentence transformation. So in sentence transformation, do you need to use your oral exercise or to do an oral exercise? Again, it's no. So letter B, C, and D, you don't need to exercise or do an oral exercise in order for you to practice your literature reading. So the correct answer for question number 4 is letter A, choral reading. Because in choral reading, you are practicing your oral exercise. So you are doing it in order to have your literature reading. Question number 5. It is a method in literature teaching which is applicable to poetry lessons. Letter A, appreciation method. Letter B, lecture. Letter C, recitation. Or letter D, discussion. So let's have our rationalization for this item. Appreciation method is to appreciate a poem. So a teacher needs to analyze it phonologically, structurally, and semantically for understanding the meaning. So beauty and the rhythm is in the lines. So that is appreciation method. What is lecture? We all know what is lecture, but in order to define it, lecture is a method in which the instructors are imparting information to the students in terms of lesson plans and academic concepts within the classroom settings. So that is lecture. Meanwhile, recitation. Of course, recitation is very much common during our face-to-face classes. So by using the recitation method is a method of teaching by requiring students to make resumes with their own sentences. Meanwhile, discussion. This is very common. Discussion methods are a variety of forums for open-ended, collaborative exchange of ideas among a teacher and students. What do you think is the correct answer for question number 5? So the correct answer for question number 5 is letter A, obviously, appreciation method. It is a method in literature teaching which is applicable to poetry lessons. So for our last question in ING 153, here it goes. This is done to overcome linguistic difficulties before literature teaching. So what is this? Letter A, poetry interpretation. Letter B, creative writing. Letter C, vocabulary drills. Or letter D, choral reading. So what is poetry interpretation? It is regarded as recreating the thoughts and emotions of the poet in the minds of the audience. While creative writing is often defined as the writing of fiction, where the author creates events, scenes, and characters, and sometimes even a world. Letter C, vocabulary drills. It helps students learn how to approach new words or to become more comfortable with the language. freeing them to explore new words and their meanings. For letter D, you all know what is choral reading. It is reading aloud in unison with the whole class or group of students. Choral reading helps build students' fluency, self-confidence, and motivation. So going back to question number 6, what should you do in order to overcome linguistic difficulties before literature teaching? Of course, you should not do immediately poetry interpretation or creative writing or choral reading. The first thing that a teacher should do in order for the students to overcome linguistic difficulties before literature teaching is vocabulary drills. So the correct answer for question number 6 is letter C, vocabulary drills.